Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. Since the judge got nerfed at the start of November, there's been lots of talk about whether this gun is still going to be utilised in the meta going forward, especially with some players that tend to like to use it in their ranked play matches and elsewhere. JohnQT, the new IGL for Sentinels, definitely knows what he's talking about, effectively says the judge is now over. Don't bother buying it, doesn't seem to be worth it at the moment, but even though the numbers on the statistics for how often it's being picked don't necessarily replicate this fact. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. Plenty to get into. First of all, this Mtake, who's officially signed a contract and is going to sign somewhere presumably in the Asia Pacific scene. I guess we'll have to stay tuned to find out what that is over the coming days. Flynn's kind of taken a break from doing the spreadsheet action, so things might have changed there. And of course, behind the scenes as well, but we did see lots of updates over the last couple of days from, Talon and these other guys signing the likes of Governor and, Ban, and then we saw T1 sign Rossi, which is kind of wild over, a little shortly before that. Now, there's also been a lot of talk, especially with, the state of esports in general, on what's going on with some of these tournament organisers. So, ProMod Esports, a UK-based, effectively tournament organiser, behind a lot of the VALORANT League, the Northern Europe VALORANT Leagues, effectively the Polaris VALORANT League in the European region. So, it's kind of, the way that Riot have set this up in Tier 2 VALORANT is pretty difficult to understand in terms of the sheer amount of leagues that there are, especially in the European side. In the Americas, it makes a bit more sense. It's pretty straightforward what goes on in challenges and easy to understand. In Europe, you've got all sorts of stuff, like especially in 2022, loads of regional tournaments in all the different countries. It would kind of all come together, but actually managing that was a challenge. And also, the viewership for these series was not great because every country had their own regional league, and there's just not enough audience necessarily to go around all that. So, ProMod Esports, who are, I guess you can consider them to be similar to, either Knights or Nerd Street or one of these tournament organisers, one of those that I mentioned predominantly operates in North America, but ProMod kind of did this for, this is basically the way that Riot operate. They license out their management of the Tier 2 ecosystem to these tournament organisers. But the issue is that ProMod Esports have run out of money, and I can understand it's a difficult time at esports right now, so they're filing for bankruptcy or insolvency basically and laying off staff, even as players and casters are unpaid. So hopefully those situations can get resolved and maybe Riot can step in and say, all right, we will finance, because at the end of the day, if Riot made the decision to partner with that organisation that has now failed to deliver on its promises, then maybe Riot should be held somewhat culpable for that, but I guess that's a matter of debate. So Riot are therefore looking for other options for how they're actually going to run this league, and that is the big debate at the moment. And they give an update and say that we're discontinuing our partnership. The Challengers Leagues exist to develop the next generation of international talent. We're committed now more than ever to give players in EMEA the opportunity to play, thrive, and compete, including in Northern Europe, which is the Polaris basically that the ProMod guys used to run. They'll share more information here in due course. So who are they going to get to do it? I don't know, but it's kind of, a couple of months out really from the start. Things are put on hold. How are they going to operate this? How are they going to run this? And it's just another example of esports being in a pretty tricky spot. And while that is true, at the same time, in, Riot's other thing, the League of Legends World Championship yesterday became with, of course, Faker and T1 winning in a crazy story. I don't even understand anything about League of Legends. I've, never really watched it at all, but I still tuned in here to the finals, you know what I mean? 6.4 million peak viewers, and this probably doesn't include the Chinese viewers either. This is probably just rest of the world, because getting the Chinese numbers in here is always difficult to say. Maybe it includes it somewhat, but I think it's always difficult to analyze. But most watched esports tournament ever. So while esports from a business perspective might be tricky to make work at the moment, because a lot of the sponsors are like, does this actually make any sense? And the owners are like, does this actually make any sense? There is still absolutely the audience there if it can be properly capitalized on. But now the shift pretty much focuses from the Riot side from 2023 Worlds into the next big Riot tournament, which is Masters Madrid. So effectively a couple of months from now, the kickoff tournaments begin for qualification for this. We know that there's big tournaments coming up in December as well, such as the Africa VALORANT League. We'll get onto that here in a second. That Sentinels and many others will be playing in. We also saw that next season, they're probably going to shift the way the off-season works, because Champions this year, 2024, let's say, is going to be in September, but in October, maybe November, the next season is going to begin. So I think they're bringing that back so that the off-season next year will be, be very short indeed. So I'm interested to see how that's going to develop if, of course, that does come to fruition. Speaking of T1 winning world, I know a couple of guys did point this out to me the other day, that Boostio having, well, he tweeted this out. If T1 win world, I'll get a tattoo of the most liked post under this tweet. Has to be about T1 players, League of Legends, and Trainwreck replies with definitely a good reply here with, of course, Tyler1, and there was a few other good replies as well. But, yeah. I don't know if this is going to actually happen, but we'll see, because people were bookmarking it. We can see 40 bookmarks. T1, of course, eventually did go on to win Worlds, so we'll see if Booster is a man of his word, I suppose. Now, quickly on Sentinels, and we'll discuss what JohnQT here has to say in a second, on their plan of action going into next month's big tournament. Last night was concluding the show matches for the Africa VALORANT TV VALORANT League. So this is the matchup. So the group stages begin December the 5th, so not that far from now. December the 5th, that's when things kick off in Seoul for, well, we saw the teams the other day. These are the 8 teams that are going to be there in attendance. Yesterday, they also did like a set of show matches. So we can see here a few teams played in this one. FULSENT got the victory over Xerxia in the finals. Fancy United Esports are going to be attending the tournament. They lost in the consolation final, but yeah, still. So these guys got the wins. That's kind of where it is for now. Sushi Boys, you know, and the other gentlemen on FULSENT, they get the victory. But yeah, in the group stages, we'll see these 8 teams, including FULSENT and Fancy United Esports, with, in addition, Edward, Liquid, Sentinels, DRX, T1, and PaperX all there as well. So massively exciting tournament prospects ahead, and we'll see what the meta will be when we actually get there, especially when there's lots of talk lately about the Judge. Earlier this year, the Judge became a really meta weapon, you know. Maybe a year ago, Act 5 or whatever, the Judge wasn't especially massively used, but over time people realized, yeah, actually, the Judge is a very viable weapon. It's not a gun that's, you know, from a lot of pro players coming over from Counter-Strike or something. To be fair, in the new Counter-Strike, the shotguns are definitely also viable, but it's never a weapon. You know, people would just buy the Vandal, they'd buy the Phantom, and that'd be it. The Judge would be a fun gun to use in ranked, but nothing necessarily that much more than that. But as we now know, that's not necessarily the case. And the Judge did become very viable, especially in ranked, but also in pro play for quite some time for certain teams. But then they decided that it was about time the Judge got nerfed. It was being used too much for their expectations, and therefore they made quite significant nerfs to it. There was this clip that came out, it's a couple of weeks old now, but it still kind of gets the point across because nothing has changed since then, of JohnQT watching someone use the Judge to not the greatest effect. Given the running inaccuracy and the jumping inaccuracy, it well, doesn't work out in his favor, and JohnQT is like, look, just don't buy this gun anymore, it's better not to.
Watch me die!
I thought you had
Get off the cam and help me!
I just trust you, but I guess that's my fault. Maybe it's me.
Bro, I told you, he's gonna have to come
me.
forward.
Bro.
It
Yeah,
is
but
you.
Can't win a 1v1 to save your life? I don't know.
Spike down A.
Oh man, sticks with streaming, bro.
Spike planted. One enemy remaining.
Should stop buying this gun.
113. Alright.
So we know that the magazine size went from 7 down to 5, and the increased spread happened on the jumping and the running spread. So look, the weapon can still get kills, and in certain circumstances can still be good. But is it as good as it was? No. Is it probably better to buy something else, even like a Bulldog or something? I think definitely that argument is there. You know, the Bulldog's still very good, the Marshall's still very good, and I think that's definitely taken some interest away from using the Judge. So yeah, JohnQT doesn't seem like his Sentinels necessarily going to be using this weapon as much as maybe other teams have and may continue to in the future, of course. You know, JohnQT been very impressive so far for that Sentinels roster, what he's done from the IGLing perspective, and even slaying out as well. However, must be said that if we look at rib.gg here, these are the numbers of, well, pick rates for certain weapons. So we can see this is like last 90 days, but really if you just look at in general, this is what you'll tend to find. So, of course, it's Vandal number 1, then it's Phantom. Right now, Vandal really has kind of dominated, and then we get a lot of the pistols. You find the Bulldog here, you'll find the Marshall down here, you'll find the Operator here, and of course everything else here on the left-hand side. But yeah, as you can see here with the Judge, a 1% pick rate, roughly. So, you know, 47 times less than the Vandal, but still, it's kind of in the mix. If we change this to the most recent patch update, so really for the last 2 patches, the same story applies, but I think maybe for the first patch, like, as soon as it happened, people were thinking, all right, let me still try it a little bit, just to see whether, you know, whether it's got better or worse effect effectively. But now, over the last couple of days since patch 7.10, it should really have settled in. And we can see the pick rate's gone from 1% flat to 0.83%. So, you know, okay, sure, is it being picked roughly 20% less than it was before? Probably about yes. But, you know, it's not necessarily a massive deal, but you can kind of see that, you know, instead of instead of the Judge, we're seeing maybe a bit more Bulldog, a bit more Marshall, for example, and a bit more of these other guns. So I don't think it's changed anything drastically, you know. JohnQT might kind of be implying that it's not worth it anymore, but still, people are still using it. It's, you know, even in pro play, it's definitely still finding its spot, and it's been marginally nerfed. And I definitely feel like other weapons that you could buy instead now feel more viable, but to say that, you know, I don't think it's completely out of the meta, and I think some teams, such as PaperX or whatever, will still be attempting to use the Judge to their advantage going into the rest of the upcoming season. A couple of funny things to finish out with. I thought this is pretty cool here from IDEX, who says practice clips. We know that usually for these practice clips, there was some drama a while ago with a player that leaked some practice stuff, and well, as soon as you leak anything from practice, you get to see what composition the other team is using. The funny thing is, you can actually still kind of tell. Now, obviously, he's made the entire screen, like, well, he's blurred out everything, so you can't tell what, well, he is using or what the other team are using, but still, you can tell, okay, he kills the Jet here, first of all, and then he goes on to, you know, kill the Cypher here, so, okay, to some degree, I know he kills the Sober as well, so to some degree, he's kind of leaked the other team's composition, although you don't know who they are, because he's blurred out absolutely everything out, and then he goes on to say, I can't show the last killer, it would leak my agent, so pretty funny stuff, but as Dirk is like, yeah, you still leaked our comp. So no matter how hard you might try to, you know, keep these things under wraps and try and say, oh, well, it's a nice clip from Scrimmers, but I don't really want to reveal exactly what the composition was, then, well, unfortunately, it doesn't seem like you're going to get anywhere with that one, but very much interested to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.